Good news. By considering Aura versus LifeLock, you are already deciding between two of the best identity theft protection services on the market. And even better news, this isn't a McDonald's versus Burger King situation where some people prefer one and some people prefer the other. The difference for me between which is best and which is second best is pretty significant. But that being said, these are still the two best options on the market. We will have discount links in the description below for both. But here are the 5 things that I think will make or break your decision whether you go with Aura or LifeLock. So let's start with something that might sound a little boring, but is actually quite indicative of how these companies consider their customers, and that is their pricing plans. A LifeLock takes what I consider the cable company approach to pricing. They have different plans broken down into tiers that offer different, escalating features. They have standard, advantage, and ultimate plus. But something like 3-bureau credit monitoring, which I consider essential to any sort of identity theft protection, yeah, that's tucked away on their Ultimate Plus tier. They only offer it on their highest paid plan. So if you're on one of the cheaper tiers, you're essentially flying blind with 2 out of the 3 major credit bureaus. Now, why is this important? Well, when someone tries to open a line of credit in your name, there's no telling whether they're going to check Equifax or Experian or TransUnion. They could choose any of them. So if you're only looking at, let's say, Equifax, and someone tries to open a line of credit and they ping TransUnion, then potential fraud can be happening under your name that's just going unnoticed because you're looking over here. If you're only monitoring one, you're missing the full picture and potentially missing fraud. So this is where Aura does something differently that I personally find very refreshing. They don't have tiered plans. When you sign up for Aura, you get complete protection right from the start. There's no upgrades, there's no upcharges, no upselling, no, premium features hidden behind, paywalls. It's all just there, complete from the start. Now, this difference in approach kind of tells you everything you need to know about how each of these companies thinks about their customers. And so in my opinion, point 1 goes to Aura. Now, let's pivot away from plans to talk about something a little bit more concrete, which is actual performance. How do these services do when, let's say, hypothetically, they are running at the same time and both monitoring all 3 credit bureaus? How do they actually perform when it matters? Well, we've done that. We've put both services through rigorous testing, monitoring all 3 credit bureaus at the same time. And what we found is pretty eye-opening. Our results have concluded that Aura's alerts consistently come in faster than LifeLock's. And when it comes to identity theft, speed isn't just a nice to have, it's pretty essential. So here's a real example from our testing with our team. We ran a fake credit check on one of our accounts while both services were working in the background. And we heard from Aura within a few minutes of us submitting this dummy credit check. And we didn't hear from LifeLock for a few hours. Now, why am I harping on this? Why does this matter so much? Think about it this way. Neither service is designed to prevent fraudulent credit checks from happening. What they do is alert you to a potentially fraudulent request so that you can confirm whether it's legitimate or not. And in that case, speed is essential. The faster you know about suspicious activity, the sooner you can commit to stopping it. It's any minute that a fraudulent request sits active is another minute longer that somebody trying to steal your identity can do more damage. Let's talk about what these services actually find when they're scanning the dark web and data broker sites for your personal information. This is where things get a little concerning if you're relying on the wrong service. In our testing, Aura found 18 instances of my personal information being found on the dark web, whereas LifeLock found 8. That's not a small difference. That's less than half of what Aura caught. And one of the things that LifeLock missed was pretty critical. Aura found that one of my Gmail addresses was being sold online on the dark web by hackers. That's not some small thing. That's potentially critical. If someone were to access my Gmail account, that could lead to, further account takeovers or even worse. Both services monitor different kinds of information. And while some of what Aura monitors may seem innocuous, like they can keep track of your gamer tag, It really does feel like Aura has more comprehensive coverage overall. Your gamer tag alone might not be a sensitive piece of information that is like super important to keep track of, but it is often linked to things like personal information or payment accounts that hackers like to take advantage of. LifeLock does a decent job with its dark web monitoring, especially if you're on their highest paid tier. But when it comes to data broker removals, this is another situation where their tiered pricing structure can really bite you if you're not careful. So while LifeLock does scan data broker sites for your personal information, when it comes to actually getting that information removed from those sites, LifeLock will only assist you in doing that if you're on their highest paid plan. With Aura, all of it happens automatically in the background on all of their plans right when you sign up. And Aura's coverage of data broker sites is just better. They cover over 30 different data broker sites, while LifeLock only tracks 19. Now, let's talk about an aspect of these plans that hopefully you never have to use, but it's very important to have in the event the worst does happen, which is the insurance policies that are bundled with each of these services. Now, fortunately, I have not had to submit a, identity theft insurance claim for either of these companies. Thankfully, I hope that continues. But I have read through all of the fine print on each of these plans. So let me break it down for you. With LifeLock, they limit their insurance coverage depending on which plan you've signed up for. While they do offer up to $3 million in coverage, that $3 million gets kind of siphoned and filtered into different buckets that have these artificial maximums. So depending on which plan you're paying for, you might only get, let's say, $25,000 in stolen fund reimbursement, which is still a lot. But when you're signing up for $3 million in coverage, you kind of expect $3 million in reimbursement. The devil's in the details, and you really, really, really don't want to find these frustrating details when you're in the midst of an identity theft crisis. Aura takes a different approach. They offer $1 million in broad standard coverage without these artificial buckets and limits. And if you want, you can add an extra $4 million in coverage for just a few extra dollars a month. So that's $5 million in total coverage for less than what you would be paying for LifeLock's premium tier. Now, again, thankfully, this is not something that we have had to test in a real world scenario. However, Aura's more user-friendly policies have kind of become clearer and clearer as things have gone on. And when you're dealing with something as awful as the fallout from identity theft, the last thing you want to discover is that the coverage that you thought you had has a bunch of artificial limitations. Finally, let's talk about the day-to-day experience of using both of these services. And on the surface, both of them are fairly similar. They have clean dashboards. They both have, nice to use mobile apps, and they come bundled with different online security things like VPNs and password managers, which can be especially helpful if you're looking to consolidate your online security tools. But at the end of the day, none of these are so impressive that they make the whole experience worth it. You're paying for identity theft protection. The other freebies are freebies. They're bonuses. They're thrown in. They're not, the best in their field in any respect, but they're nice to haves. Now, the biggest standout in Aura's favor is their customer support. They have been consistently in our testing the fastest, most knowledgeable, and the easiest to reach. We have called them at midnight on a Friday, and we've gotten a real person on the phone with us answering our questions fully within minutes. No, bouncing around a call center, no waiting on hold, just real help quickly. And, to their credit, LifeLock's customer support is pretty nice as well. You get to talk to a person relatively quickly with fairly little friction. However, one thing we've noticed, especially when we call from one of our lower tier paid plans, is your help is often bundled with a sales pitch. And that usually means that they will try and upsell you on one of their more premium tiers with certain things and yada yadas. And it's just, if you're calling with an issue, it's not a deal breaker, but it can be kind of annoying to be like, yeah, nope, not interested today. Thank you. Goodbye. When really you're calling for help, not a sales pitch. So while again, on the surface, both Aura and LifeLock offer useful tools and support, Aura just delivers a smoother, more reassuring experience when it matters most. Look, both Aura and LifeLock offer solid coverage, and either one will be better than having no identity theft protection at all. But when you start to compare them head to head in categories that matter, like the comprehensiveness of their coverage, the speed of their alerts, the quality of their dark web searches, or their insurance coverage, Aura starts to come out in front in most cases. Now, the biggest difference between Aura and LifeLock ultimately does come down to how their plans break down. LifeLock offers solid protection, especially on their highest tier plans, but you'll need to pay more to unlock features like 3-bureau credit monitoring or the higher insurance coverage. And Aura, on the other hand, just gives you those things out of the gate on every plan. Now, we've got discount codes for both of these options in the description below. Feel free to try them for yourselves. If you want my recommendation, I say go with Aura. Your future self will thank you. If you have any questions about any of this, please feel free to drop them in the comments. We do try and respond to them as often as we can. That is all we have for today. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.